Hello everyone, welcome to Titan Academy. In this video we'll do a general overview of the Titan Forms Builder. So we're at our Titan account here, and we will click at Dashboard, and we'll click on New Form, and let's create a blank one. Alright, so let's start from what we see on the screen. We have File. We can create a new one. If we're working on one that's already saved, we can open an older one since I didn't save it. So let's just save this guy, and I'll do File, Open, and now I can select to jump to any of my forms that I have on my account. We can do a preview. So right now we have nothing on it, so we're just going to see the Submit button, and we can do a Publish. Once our form is ready, we put all of our elements in there, we did integration, everything is done, and we want to publish it, then we can just click on the Publish button, hit View, and we have it published. Or if we want to embed it in some way, so you use the embed, iframe, can push it directly to Salesforce, you name it, then you can grab the code from here. So everything is in the Publish window. All right. If we want to see submissions for this, so let's submit something, even though it's empty. And I'll head over to Submissions. I'll see all the submits for that form. So I see one form, and it's practically empty because there's nothing in here. So just the button. If I had some fields over here, we'll be able to see it. So let's do that real quick. Add a text box, and I'll publish, and let's do hello, submit, and I'll click again on the submissions, and we can see this guy over here, and we'll see our submission. Perfect. Let's get rid of these. Right. Our next thing is tips. So you can get tips on how to make your form better. You can read over it and just say that you fixed it. And the next one is help, where you can get help if you want to view our help center, etc., etc. That's wonderful. All right, let's delete this guy and delete this guy. Let's talk about the elements. Now, in the left side of the form builder, you have our elements, all of our elements, and you can discover them by going to basic, and let's say you can go to section, and if you want a section with tabs or a section with repeat, you can do that directly from here. You can go to advanced and look for all the advanced features like price, date and time, and each and every one of these has options. Or if you want to go to widgets, again, you can discover them by doing so. And same thing goes for Salesforce. All the Salesforce special features are under the Salesforce tab. Or you can, for instance, if you know what you're doing, you know what you need on your form, then you can just search for it. Let's say you want a text box, you want a section, or a drop down, anything you like, you can search it quickly and drop it onto your screen. So I'm going to select everything here, and let's get rid of it. All right, so we know our elements, we know how to drop them onto our screen. Now let's talk about what we have over here. So you have the undo, which will simply undo what you've just did. So, and that will work the same way if you hit Control-Z or Command-Z, depending on Windows or Mac. So if I'll hit Command-Z, then it will just redo all my changes, undo all my changes. All right, so let's get rid of these. And the copy does something really cool. Let's say if you want to copy this text box, even though, let's say you set up a bunch of stuff over here, you called it, let's do hello, and that's the label of it, and you want to copy it, so you can just hit copy, or you can click the little arrow there and hit duplicate, and it will duplicate your element. And you could do the same thing with Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V. All right, that's great. Let's say we want to align these guys. So you can open the align and decide how you want to align them. You want to align them left, center, right, middle, or bottom. And the spacing, so I'm selecting all three elements that I have currently on the screen, and you can decide how you want to space them. So instead of just dragging and deciding the spaces like so, if you want to space them out evenly, you can say this again. I'm clicking shift and selecting with the mouse, and I'll say spacing vertical, I want it to be 2 pixels apart, so that will move them 2 pixels apart. And if you have some elements that are horizontally to each other, then you can say spacing, you can say horizontal, I want it to be 10 pixels apart, and that's what it will do. Wonderful. Now the grid is really useful. So let's say if you click snap the grid, then it will give you a grid where you can see how you're aligning your elements, and it will help you align them. And you can control the size of the grid as well. So let's say you want the X of the grid to be 60 pixels and the Y to be 60 pixels as well. It will change the size of your grid. So that's really great. Let's remove it. And the find, what it will do, it will search for all the elements in your screen. So let's say this will be, we'll do goodbye, and we will search for, so let's say in your form you have a ton of elements and you want to find one quickly, so you can just do hello and it will give you the field, and once you click it, it will take you to the setting of that element. That's really cool. All right, let's put these guys back here, and let's say you have a form that you finished designing, finished building. Now you don't want anybody to come in and move the locations of any of the fields or any of the elements on the screen. So what you can use is lock. So you can do lock all, unlock all, or lock selected. So let's say if you want to just lock these guys, and you'll say lock selected, then you won't be able to drag them anywhere. Whatever you didn't lock can still be dragged. And the same thing goes for lock all. Nothing will be able to be moved now. And this is very, very useful. Like I've said before, if you've designed your document and you don't want anything to move, then it's really good to lock the elements, and then you can still go through them and see the settings and change the settings, add conditions, etc., etc. All right, let's unlock everything. And let me show you the drop correction. All right, so the drop correction, again, really, really cool. Let's say you had a bunch of stuff here, and then your requirement changed, and you need to add, let's say, an email field in the middle here. So in order for you to do that, normally you would have to move everything, make space for it, and many times it's a big, big hassle. So what you could do is use the drop correction. So if I'll select drop correction, and you can decide how much you want it to space out from the top or from the bottom. You can decide, I'm just going to leave it as default, and I'll do the same thing. I'll drag my email over here in the middle, and you can see that it spaced it out automatically. And if I'll do the same again, then it will make space for it and push everything around it, and you can control how much you want it to push. This is a very, very useful feature. All right, so we'll save this, and now let's move on to our form settings. One thing to notice here, that you have form settings and element settings. These two are completely different. And within the form settings, you have settings for the form itself, and you have settings for the style. So the style will be where you style your form, and the settings will be where you set the settings for your form. So we're going to review a real quick review of these settings. And one thing is important throughout everything here. Whatever you see here, you will always have a help sign. Anything in the settings, the limits, anything you see here. If you want to learn more, you can always open it and say, okay, what is Salesforce LWC? You click the question mark, and it will take you to a video with a quick explanation of how to use it. So this is a very important thing to know. All right, so let's get back to it. So we have the form settings, form style, and then we have, if we select an element, we have an element settings and element style. And these are the same for form settings. So the element settings, wherever you set your element, any settings on your element, and every element has different settings, and all of them do have settings. And so this is where you will set your settings on it. And the style is how to style your element. All right, so let's do a quick review of the form settings. So let's just say we will go to the general settings, and this is where you will set your form name. So you will say Titan Academy, and we will say, and that will be the name of our form. All right, once I save this and I'll publish, I can see that it already changed on my tab. We can see that our Titan Academy overview is in there. Public will decide if our form is visible to the outside world or not. And if you uncheck this, and again, you have help for this, you can get specific help for every single thing. If you uncheck this, whoever is not logged into Titan will not be able to see it. Form URL, very, very important. You can decide what's the URL of your form. So let's say if I'll publish this now, we can see that the URL is FD long number. What if we want it to be more customized? And we usually do. So let's say we'll change this to Titan, can say Titan Academy, and hit save. And if I'll publish it, this is the new URL that I have for my form. If you want to change your subdomain, the subdomain before the .form Titan, so if I'll publish this, you can see that my subdomain is my subdomain. So if we want to change this, we can go to my account and subdomain, and this is where you can change this. And it's very, very important to set your subdomain right off the bat, especially if you're gonna put iframes and embed your forms in places in Salesforce and other sites as well. It's very, very important to set your subdomain right off the bat. All right, you can set a theme. I didn't set one, but you can set, we have a bunch of them. You can create your own theme. Again, we have videos about the how to create and how to assign the theme to your form. All right, the onSubmit is very, very useful, and we will go over this for just a minute. So redirect to URL. So the onSubmit, technically what it controls is what happens once you submit your form. So let's say right now, I'll publish my form and I will submit. I'll see a thank you message. But what if you want to redirect it? Once the form submitted, you want to redirect to a URL. So you can select redirect to a URL. You can just say how to open it in the same window, in the parent window, if it's embedded somewhere, or to pop up a modal window. You can say redirect after push integration finished. So if your did some push to Salesforce, that you want only once the push is finished to redirect, and you can check this guy over here, and you can set parameters as well, when to redirect, and you can say redirect after XYZ seconds. So that's also very useful. You can control the confirmation text. You can set a message. You can set a condition, when to submit the form or not to submit the form. You can say if hello equals, then you can say hi, and this is when it will submit the form. That's great. All right, so we have some general settings. If we want to track the IP, allow later editing, allow auto submit, all these are a little bit advanced, and you can use the question mark to see what they do. Wonderful. Let's move on to our next settings, is the limit. Limit is very important. It's where you control the privacy of your form. So you can select to disable your form completely. You can whitelist only certain IPs to access your form. You can say that it's only available with Salesforce tokens, Salesforce Canvas, and again, question marks everywhere. You can see what it does. Post message, if we want to interact with a parent, a window, whatever is containing our iframe. And again, you can use the question mark to review it. We want to use SSL on the form, control the URL parameters, and I'll show this because this is important. So let's say we want to pass in, let's put in a hidden. A hidden field is where we keep our variables and usually are hidden from the users. And I'll call this, let's just leave it as key. Let's say this is something we're passing in the URL, and we can see that the field is FLD14. And I'll save the form, and let's say I want to see this. So right now it's not going to be visible, so I'll refresh the form. I can't see anything. So I'm just going to add the debug mode, and I'll do show hidden fields, and these fields will show only when you're the user that's logged in. So I'll publish this guy, and I'll pass in FLD14 equals Titan Academy. I'll run this and I see my keys populated. That's wonderful. But what if we don't want to pass FLD14? We want to pass something really meaningful. So I'll go back to the limits, URL parameters, configure, and I'll say that the key, the param for this one, the param name for this guy is special key. Apply and save, and if I'll head over here and refresh, my key will not be populated since I'm passing in the wrong key. So if I'll pass in right now special key in the URL parameters, I'll get my Titan Academy assigned to the hidden. All right. Next up is emails. This is where you control if to send an email to the owner, to send an email to the filler. You can do a lot of stuff here. You can customize the email that go out to the filler, to the user that submitted the form, or to the owner of the email. A lot of settings here. You can send it through Salesforce, and again, question marks everywhere. Integration is where you can select the extra integrations we have, and this is where you can set them up. All right, let's take a look at the Salesforce integration. Set push and get push. This is where you interact to Salesforce. So let's say I'll get rid of this and these guys, and let's just put a text box. And we will go, I'll do the simplest push I can possibly can, and let's call this account name. So I'll go to push, add object. I'll select the object from Salesforce, the account. This is where I want to push, and I'll give it a comment, push an account to Salesforce. And I'm ignoring all the stuff here. I'm just going to do this real quick. We have, again, detailed videos over everything. And let's map the field. This is where we're mapping the fields from the Titan form to Salesforce. And we will say the account name in Salesforce, please assign it to the account name on my form, whatever we will submit. So I'll hit apply and finish. I'll hit save. And I'll go back to my form and I'll refresh. And I'll put account name, Titan Academy. Wonderful. Let's hit submit. And if I'll take a look at my integration logs, this is where we see everything that happened. I can see that I have a problem pushing to Salesforce because I have storage limit. So this is a dev account and I've exceeded the limit on the data that I have. All right, so I went ahead and cleared some data off my developer account. And what we can do now is either resubmit, and that will create our account immediately. And if I'll click this, then it will take us to Salesforce and we'll be able to see our account. Or if we will get rid of this and I'll publish this guy. And Titan Academy. And we'll submit. And again, I'll take a look at the integration logs. And this is where we see our submitted data, and we can click it and it will take us directly to Salesforce. All right, so let's get rid of everything I have here. And let's take a look at our get. So get basically is just to pull data from Salesforce, and we have a bunch of settings here. You can use the question marks, and we'll do a video on the get and push separately. All right, so let's say we want to pull account data. So we can do it either by passing a parameter. Let's just say that we want to pass in we'll say that the account ID equals to our key. Let's say we want to pass in the account ID. And it's not very secure that way, just for the example. Get account, and we'll map the fields. We'll do account name equals the account name that we found. Hit apply and finish. And remember, before then we set it to be special key. So we'll publish this, and I'll say special key equals, it's not going to bring in anything because there is no account ID that says special key, the no account ID that's equals to Titan Academy. So let's grab the account ID that we just created before. So take a look at the integration logs, and let's copy this, and we see the error since there is no account ID called Titan Academy, which is wonderful. I'll copy this guy, paste it over here, run the get, and here is our account name. That's our get. We have Salesforce automation. You can run your form from Salesforce, outbound message, Apex, process builders, a lot of great stuff. Let's move on to the document generation. So you can generate documents directly from your Titan form. You can use PDF builders to build your PDF, either static or dynamic, etc. Word, using our form Titan add-in. You can use Excel with our Excel add-in, and you can generate auto PDF, and you can run DocSign, Titan Sign directly from your form. All right, let's move on to our next very used setting. So you can do optimization, And here you can add chat, you can add co-browsing, you can add heat maps, and the most commonly used settings here is the hide asterisk, show error indicator, show valid indicator, so you can remove them, and you can see that once I remove it, my text boxes, the valid and invalid indicator are removed. And the asterisk is if I'll say this guy is mandatory, I cannot see the asterisk on it. So if I'll go back to the form settings and show the asterisk, here it is. Don't save the data basically means that once you submit your form, no data is stored in Titan. No submission data, nothing. It just goes. If you connected to Salesforce, it will go to Salesforce, and that's that. Nothing is stored in Titan. All right, the CDN cache, you can cache your forms, and it will make them run a lot faster. You can select the type of your form. That's great. Let's take a look at the personalization. So here you can select your language. Very helpful. Let's say you're using calendars, anything of that sort, it will translate it automatically. You can select your location, so your form will be identified from that location, Google Maps, etc. And from here you can also select how to set the while submit message. So you can say, instead of submitting your form, say something custom, and that will change. So if I'll go back here, let's just remove the push, and I'll delete this, save, refresh my form, I'll hit submit, so we can see our custom message. All right, let's head over to error messages. Now this is really, really important. This is where you can control everything. Every text that we have from within Titan, you can replace it. So if I'll take a look here real quick, you can say that today, for example, belongs to the calendar. Invalid captchas, if you have captcha on your form. The good, this is the valid text, the thank you message. You can replace everything. You can write it in a different language and customize it to your needs. Same thing goes for rules, all the rule messages, all the limit messages, all the payment messages, and all the orientation messages. This is a very important thing to know how to use. All right, the head, you can put in some content in your head like JavaScript, CSS, etc., etc. Debug mode, really, really important. So you can, for instance, ignore validations if you want to test out your form and you have mandatory fields of that sort. So you can, whenever you're debugging it, you can ignore the validations. Show hidden fields, we've seen it. What it does, it will show us, if we're logged in, the values of the hidden fields. Enable versions, really cool. You click this guy, and once you save it, it will start versioning your document. All right, affecting fields and affected fields will show you whatever is affected by something else. So we can see that the key is affected in a get, and if we will click configure, it will take us to the get, and we can see that it's used in a condition. So that will show you globally over your entire form. Affected fields, same thing here. You can click configure, and it will show you what's it doing and where is it doing it. All right, let's move on to our element settings. So like the form settings, every element has settings. For instance, in the text box, you can set the mandatory, go to the advanced, and you can select a bunch of options here. You can say read only, disabled, disallow paste, and a bunch of settings specific for the text box. You can go to conditioning, for instance, and set a condition saying if text box is not empty, then I want you to do something. So you can hit immediate submit. You can do execute button. So let's say we want to click submit. And if I'll publish this and refresh, then since the text box was not empty, immediately the condition triggered in and ran the submit button. Let's say we want to cancel this out. Let's add something else to the form. Put a text box, and we'll say if this text box is not empty, then I want you to, instead of not empty, let's do contains hello. And you can also contain to a different field in the form, etc. But let's just do value hello and click to configure results, and we will say the text box, I want you to show it. And notice that the support opposite is on, and if I'll hit apply and save, and I'll refresh it, then automatically it's not going to show since we're supporting opposite. If I'll put hello here, immediately my text box will show. Same thing for value rules. We can say that this field is valid only when something happens. So let's say only when this field contains buy, then it will be valid. Otherwise, we can say custom message must contain buy. And let's just show we took it off. So we're going to go back to optimization, and we'll show error, we'll show good. And let's refresh, and we can see immediately that it must contain buy. So if I'll add a buy here, then everything is great. So this is our value rule, and you have a lot of options to run here. So you can do Israeli ID, US social security number, address validation, run regex, run custom JavaScript. You can do a bunch of stuff with the validation rule. All right, let's remove this. And Salesforce, you can map it directly from here. We can see that it's already set on get, and this is really, really cool. All right, so let's take a look at how to see when something is affected by different fields. So if I will go to the text box settings, and I'll head over to conditioning and click affected by, I will see that it's affected by a condition. And what it does is show. I'll click configure condition, and it takes me to directly to the condition. For instance, if I will change this, instead of show, I'll set value, and I'll reopen this, and we can see that the set value to ASD. This is a very, very important thing. This is how you can see where all your fields are affected. So this guy, I can see that it's affected from a get in Salesforce, and it's setting the value of my account name. If I'll go to my hidden over here, I'll see that I get different options. So with the hidden, you can use a system value. It will give you the current date. You can use a bunch of values here, and if you click on the question mark, you'll be able to see everything that there are. Let's put a drop down. And here you see that the element settings is completely different because it's specific to the drop down. And the same thing goes for section, any other element that we have. So let's say a table. We'll drop it over here, and we can see that it has different settings, and the advanced as well. Every element has specific settings tied to it. All right, let's talk about the styles. So let's remove these guys. And with the styles, just like with the form settings, you can control styles for the entire form or control styles for a specific element. So let's start with the entire form. So in the entire form, you can apply styles too, and you will see the same thing in the element style as well. So you can select, for instance, you can say the form, and then you can use background. You can dictate the size and position of the form. So let's say you want the form to be the height of 1,000 pixels. It will make the form taller, or you can change the width as well directly from here. Let's change the back. Great. With the style, you can, with the background, you can select the back image and put an image over there. You can dictate the padding, you can dictate the alignment, the border, you name it. You can set CSS for the entire form, and then if you want to use it in a specific element, you'll go to the element style and read from that CSS. And you can apply styles for the entire page as well. So let's say you want the entire page to be, the font to be this font, and the background, the font color to be this color. Let's set it to black, and let's say we'll set a background black. So we can see that the entire page, if I'll save this and publish, you can see that the entire page is black, and our form background is what we set it to be. So that's the page, apply styles to the page. And again, here you can use a background image, either from a URL or from your computer. And let's take a look at the general element. Now, the general element basically means whatever element we have, we can decide that the font will be, let's do this guy. So that will change all the fonts. If I will go over here, all the element fonts on your form. So whenever you drop something new, let's just revert the background here and do the same for the form. So whatever is within your element, this is what you control. So if let's say I'll select a background of a certain color, we can see that the element is changing the background. If I'll select a label, so that will apply the styles, whatever we have here, font, background, size and position, margin, padding, alignment, border, etc. You can apply it directly to the label. And that will change the color of the label, that will change the font, the size, whatever you will add after setting this. And if, let's say, I'll add a new text box, it will take the same styling. You can still go to that specific element and change it, but if you want global styling for your entire form, you can do it directly from here. Thank you message lets you customize the size and text of your thank you message. So you can select the font, you can select the colors, the background color, you can play around with it as you like. All right, let's head to our element styles. Just like in the form style, we can set specific style for the element. And the same thing goes, just like in the form styles, we can select what are we applying the style to. So let's say here we want to apply the style to the element, and for that specific element, let's say I want the background to be this. And I want the font to be the size of 12. And I want, let's say, for it to have a different font. That's great. And let's say we will drop in a table. just to show you that we have more options over there and different elements. So let's say in the table style, we can see that the apply style 2 has a long list. Since the table has a lot of elements in it, you can control every specific element with its own style. Next, we will talk about the My Forms and the My Account. Alright, so let's save this form. I'll head back to the dashboard and I'll click on My Forms. And from here, you can have quick actions on your form. So let's say if you click this guy, it will give you a quick preview of the form. And let's say this guy, and you can directly from here delete it. You can add a category. Let's say you say demo, and then you can group your forms into a category. So you can drop it onto a category and add forms on there, so you know what's happening within your categories. So you can group forms within categories and that way have them sorted out. So if I'll click the info again, I can delete the form, and if you confirm delete, then it will delete it. You can duplicate the form and it will create a copy. So if I'll update this, then I have a new copy of the form created. You can publish it directly from here. I clicked edit, so I'll go back to my forms, select this guy again, and we can do publish, and it will give you the publish screen directly from your forms. You can preview it. It will show you a quick preview of the form, or you can export, and on this we have a specific video on how to export.